recording. Stop recording. Speech off.
Hello guys, the iPod Touch 7th generation just got released. It actually did, and basically what's gonna happen is it's going to be without Face ID and Touch ID, because it is a lower priced iOS device, very low priced, although not too low priced, mind you. It's cheaper than pretty much every iOS device on the market, depending on what version you're getting. There's several. There's no 64 gigabyte, there's only a 32, 128, and a 256. In my opinion, if you get a 32 gigabyte, that's still kind of cheap. But think about whether if there's like a phone that is a 32 gigabyte. Think about that. I don't think there is, right? I think it's the only iOS device that has a 32 gig storage space available. So cheapest is about $199. That's for 32 gigabyte. That's for 32 gigabyte. For 128, that's $299. And if you think about the iPhone 7 or iPhone 8 or whatever iPhone I have, I think I got the 7, I'm not sure, I don't know. But that would probably cost around, what, $800-900? But an iPod Touch with that amount of space is $300. $300. Now, if you're thinking about the iPad Pro that I got, that cost under $800. An $800 tablet. Probably it's $600-700. $750 probably. That is, I have the 256 gig, but the iPod Touch 7th generation with 256 gigs is for $399. $400. Not that expensive, but still expensive. Which version should you buy? Well, buy an affordable and buy one that's affordable and buy one that meets your needs. Like, for example, I could get 128 gigabyte for $300 versus getting a 32 gigabyte for $199 for $200. I wish they added 64 gigabyte, but okay, that's fine. iPhones are so expensive.
Low power mode. Close. Button.
I'm almost done.
Speech off.
iPhones are so expensive because they have all those extra features, like the phone app. They got the speaker up top, the earpiece. They have they have all those, they have Touch ID. Well, this one does. But the iPhone 10 is like over $1,000. You get me? Over $1,000. People are willing to spend about $900 to $1,000 just to get the new phone. Now, if you think about getting an iPod Touch, this is the best thing you should do. What you should do is consider the fact that that it's a lot cheaper than an iPhone. Sure, it doesn't have all the capabilities, but at least you can still have an iOS device. Just think of it that way. Now, if I got myself an iPod Touch 7th generation, which I don't even know if I am or not, but $200 does seem a bit on the expensive side for 32 gig iPod Touch. A 32 gigabyte iPod Touch is kind of expensive. Now, I'm thinking about the 16 gigabyte models are now gone. Even the 8 gigabyte models are gone. That's the version I got, the 4th generation 8 gigabyte. They even have some that are 4 gigabytes. They even had some Apple devices that are 4 gigabytes. But it just depends on the storage capacity. I would want a $300 128 gigabyte iPod Touch. Because right there, that's a good deal. For $300, 128 gigabytes, enough storage for you, instead of that 64 gig. I think the highest that they had for the 6th generation was 128. Because 128 is a pretty good amount of storage. In fact, 256 gig is a whole lot better. But what do you really need? A lot of storage that you don't really need? Or do you need the storage that you can use and still have some left over to do whatever you want? I'd say the second option, because 64 gigabytes may be enough, but with what I do, I mean, like a really expensive iPhone back in the day used to cost like maybe up to $300 at the highest price. And only AT&T supported it, I think. And it went from like, I don't know, 32 gigabyte up to the highest. I'm surprised that they're still giving out a 32 gigabyte iOS device in 2019. But, you know, if you really want something really small, and there's no 64 gigabyte available. There's only 32, 128, or 256 as far as I know. There could be a 64-bit, but, I mean, it's 64 gigabyte. But, if you're wanting an inexpensive iOS device with very little storage, then get the 32 gigabyte. If you want a decent priced iOS device, I mean iPod Touch 7th generation, with enough storage to, I don't know, be decent, a decent amount of storage, then get the 128 gig model. Now, if you're that kind of rich guy that likes to spend a whole lot of money, then go ahead and grab yourself the highest amount of storage, the $400 7th generation iPod Touch with 256 gigs. Now, I was lucky to get the iPad Pro 256 because I needed it for some sort of project and stuff like that, and it still works to this day. The thing that kind of is cool about a new iPod is that, you know, you get a gaming device, you get a iOS device that you don't have to worry about paying a phone bill, And you don't have to literally, I mean, I'm not saying I'm getting rid of this phone, because I'm not. It's my only way to contact people that I know of and those who are friends. But anyways, if you were to get an iPod Touch today, if you were to get one today, do not get the 6th because it's outdated in 4 months. It's literally getting outdated. Don't even bother. Because as soon as you get it, in 3 or 4 months, boom, it's done. Then you'd have to upgrade to another iPod. Which, again, if you... Now, like, if you want an iPod that has a bit more storage, but then also can leave off from where your previous iPod came from, the only way you do that is if you got a 32 gigabyte iPod, and if you have an 8 gigabyte iPod from like 2010 or something. They still did, and then they did 16 gigabytes. I think the last year they did an 8 gigabyte iOS device was in like 2010 for like the iPod Touch 4th generation. And I've got the 8. I've got the 8 gigabyte version. Very, very limited amount of storage. In fact, I think it's good because right now, the YouTube app, pretty much every app that was available for it is either non-supported anymore or has retired from the App Store or is not available, period, to use. So if you're wanting to get an old iPod, rather than getting the brand new top-of-the-line iPod Touch, then get a 4th generation 8 gigabyte. That would be very cool for like recording stuff and probably syncing some of your stuff from the from your Apple ID onto your iOS device just to have it. I mean, not all of my stuff is compatible with that iPod. Even the Bop It Smash app that I got on my iPod is compatible, and it's it's available for like iPods all the way up to like the 5th generation. Because the 6th generation, it goes up to iOS 12, along with the iPhone 6. I've got a great idea. I'm going to see what happens when I get the 5th because I'm getting the 32 gig version. Supposedly. We'll see what happens with that because I mean, the 32 gig, if that's all you can afford, then go ahead and grab it. I mean, I'm not saying you need to buy the current iPod. If you're a young person and if you have a kid that wants to look at an iOS device that's cheap and is decent, but not as cool as any other device, then get the iPod Touch 7th generation. It doesn't have a new home button, so that means it's pretty much probably going to be the same home button as before. So, I guess good luck to those who try to get that. Now, the iPod Touch 7th generation, it just got released, so don't expect it in your local Apple store or any electronics stores yet. It just got released, so probably wait a couple weeks because iOS 12 was still out. It's just in maybe a couple months, well, maybe 3 or 4 months. Just, I wouldn't suggest getting the 6th generation right now because in 3 months it's gonna go bye-bye. It's gonna go, it's gonna, it's gonna, it's going to be, it's going to be out of date, okay? But I'd rather like see if I can get a 7th generation somehow. I'm not sure. I don't even know if I'm even gonna do that, so don't even count on that. So yeah. Anyways, bye. Come on.
Speech on. YouTube. Camera chooser. Back. Stop recording.